The night was colder than usual, and my hands trembled slightly as I pulled the bar door open. I wasn't even supposed to be out. I had promised myself an early night, but something about this small place on the corner of 5th and Main called to me like it always did. It wasn't the drinks. It wasn't the music. It was her, the bartender. I didn't even know her name. All I knew was that her eyes seemed to hold a kind of quiet fire, the kind that makes you stop mid-sentence and forget what you were talking about. She always wore black, her hair tied up in a messy bun, a silver ring on her right thumb. She moved like she owned the place, not in an arrogant way, but like someone who'd built it with her own 2 hands. I told myself she was probably just really good at her job. Friendly, confident, one of those people who made everyone feel like they belonged. But every time I walked in, it felt like I was walking into something deeper, like I was stepping into a story I hadn't been told yet. I found my usual seat at the end of the bar, the one farthest from the speakers but close enough to catch her voice when she laughed. She glanced at me once, that same casual smirk tugging at her lips, and asked if I wanted the usual. I nodded, and she turned to make the drink without another word. The way she moved, fast but graceful, said she had done this a million times. But every now and then, she'd pause like she was lost in thought. I noticed things like that. I always noticed too much. The way she avoided eye contact for more than a second. How she seemed to listen harder when people talked, like she was searching for something in their words. The kind of things that didn't make sense for someone who just poured drinks for a living. But I didn't ask. I just watched. And waited. For what? I didn't know. She set the glass in front of me, our fingers almost touching. "Rough day?" she asked, casually, wiping the counter. I offered a weak smile. "You could say that." She nodded like she understood without needing to hear more. "This one's on the house," she said. I blinked. "Why?" She shrugged. "You looked like you needed it." It was such a simple thing, but it landed harder than I expected. Maybe it was the way she said it, soft, like she wasn't trying to impress me, just trying to be kind. I sipped the drink slowly, letting the silence between us stretch out. A few people came and went. The lights dimmed a bit more. The air inside turned warmer. Comfortable. Familiar. I wasn't thinking about work anymore. I wasn't thinking about bills or emails or my boring relationship that had ended 6 months ago but still lingered in my head like a ghost. I was thinking about her. And how she made everything feel different. The first time I saw her, she barely looked at me. Just another customer. But over the last few weeks, something had shifted. Or maybe it was just me. Maybe I started looking too hard, reading too much into every smile, every moment she leaned across the bar and asked me about my day. But there were signs, weren't there? Once, when I laughed at a dumb joke she made, she bit her lip like she was trying not to grin too hard. Another time, she touched my wrist for just a second longer than she needed to when handing me my card. Those little moments added up in my mind, like puzzle pieces of something unspoken. I wasn't sure what I was feeling yet, but it was stronger than anything I'd felt in a long time. Realer, stranger. I didn't even know if she liked women. I didn't even know if I liked women. Not seriously. I mean, I'd thought about it. Felt things. But I'd never really allowed myself to go there. It had always been easier not to. But she made it hard to ignore. She made me question things I had locked up so tightly I forgot they were. Even there was something dangerous about her, but not in a bad way. More like she saw through people without even trying. And every time she looked at me, I felt like she saw parts of me I hadn't shown anyone else. Maybe that's why I kept coming back. Not for the drinks. Not even for the atmosphere. I came back for her. The bartender with the sharp eyes and quiet smile who made me feel like maybe I wasn't as invisible as I thought I was. I sipped the last of my drink and caught her gaze for a second longer than I ever had. And for the first time, I let myself wonder, who was she, really? Because something told me, she wasn't just a bartender. The next time I walked into the bar, it felt different. Not because anything had changed physically, same dim lights, same worn-out stools, same soft music in the background, but because I was more aware. Of her, of me, of the strange current pulling us closer with every passing night. She was behind the bar again, hair down this time, her black t-shirt rolled slightly at the sleeves. There was a look in her eyes when she saw me. Not surprise, not boredom, just recognition, like she had expected me. Maybe even hoped I'd come back. She gave me a soft smile and started making my drink before I said a word. I took my seat, pretending I didn't notice the way my pulse quickened when she leaned over to slide the glass toward me. You're getting predictable, she teased. I smirked, sipping it slowly. Or maybe I just know what I like. She raised an eyebrow. Do you? She asked, voice low. I felt my face warm, and she chuckled like she knew exactly what she was doing. That was the thing with her, she always said just enough to make you think, never too much to give herself away. That night, we talked more than usual. I asked her about the bar, how long she'd been working there. She told me it had been a few years, but her answers were always vague, like she was carefully choosing what not to say. Still, I listened, and in the middle of it all, I found myself telling her about my job, my writing, my apartment that never really felt like home. She listened the same way she moved, attentively, without rushing, like every word mattered. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix anything. She just listened, and it felt like oxygen. It became a pattern after that. I came in more often, and she always made time for me. Even when the bar was full, she'd find a second to lean over and ask how my day was. Sometimes we joked, sometimes we sat in silence. But even in the quiet, it didn't feel awkward. It felt intimate, like we didn't need to fill the space with words to understand each other. And every now and then, our hands would brush, or she'd touch my arm when laughing at something I said. Each time, it sent a small shock through me. I didn't know if she was doing it on purpose. I didn't even know if I wanted her to. But I noticed everything. One night, I stayed after closing. I hadn't planned to, but she asked if I wanted to hang around while she cleaned up. The bar was empty except for us. She turned the music up a little louder, and we talked while she wiped down the counters. It felt easy, natural. She moved beside me, close enough to touch, and I wanted to reach for her. But I didn't, I couldn't. Instead, I asked, why do you do this? She looked at me. What, bartending? I nodded. She shrugged. I like the quiet stories people bring in. The honesty. You learn a lot when you just pour a drink and shut up. I laughed. Sounds like you've heard some things. More than you'd believe, she said, her eyes catching mine for a second too long. That pause stretched between us again. That unsaid something. As the lights dimmed lower, I helped her stack stools and sweep the floor. It wasn't glamorous, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be near her. There was a peace in that space, a calm I hadn't felt in months. When we finally stepped outside into the chill of the night, she walked with me to my car. We stood there for a moment, neither of us saying much. I wanted to ask her name, her full name. I wanted to know where she came from, what she dreamed about when she wasn't mixing drinks or pretending she didn't see the way I looked at her. But all I said was, thanks. For everything. She smiled, that same quiet smile, and tucked her hands into her jacket. Anytime, she said, you make the night feel less heavy. I sat in my car for a long time after she walked away. Watching her disappear into the dark, I realized something had shifted. I wasn't just crushing on some random bartender. I was drawn to her in a way that didn't make sense yet, but felt impossibly real. And I could tell, something was different on her end too. Maybe it was the way she looked at me before turning away. Or maybe it was just the hope in my chest telling me that whatever this was, it wasn't one-sided. I didn't know what would happen next. I just knew I'd be back. And I knew she'd be waiting. The night I saw her face on Forbes, everything inside me shifted. It wasn't even intentional. I wasn't snooping or Googling her name, mainly because I still didn't know her last name. I was scrolling through some article that popped up on my feed, 10 women under 30 redefining success in America. I almost skipped it, but something about the photo caught my eye. There she was. The same woman who'd been pouring my drinks for weeks, the one who always wore black and leaned in just a little too close when she asked about my day. Her hair was done up, makeup subtle, smile composed and professional. But it was her, no question. My heart actually stopped. I stared at the screen for a good minute before reading a single word. Her name was Sienna Hale. Sienna. I whispered it out loud like it was a secret I wasn't supposed to know. The article said she was the founder of a tech startup that had just landed a major investment deal. Something about AI and logistics. Honestly, I barely understood half of it. But it said she had built the company from the ground up. It said she was one of the youngest CEOs in her sector. It said a lot of things I couldn't match with the woman who made me laugh with dumb jokes and clean shot glasses with a towel over her shoulder. None of it made sense. Or maybe that was the problem, it made too much sense. The way she spoke, the way she observed, the way she never quite explained anything about herself, always turning the conversation back to me. She wasn't hiding who she was. She was just choosing when to show it. I felt sick, not angry, just confused. Who was this woman I'd been slowly falling for? And why the hell was she tending bar in a place like that when she clearly didn't need to be? My head spun with questions I had no answers to. I didn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling for hours, trying to figure out what to do. Should I confront her? Would that even be fair? Maybe she had her reasons. Maybe she didn't trust me. Hell, maybe I wouldn't have trusted me either. The next evening, I went to the bar like I always did. But this time, I wasn't calm. I was tense, awkward. When I walked in, she looked up and smiled like usual, but something about her eyes flickered. Like she knew I knew. She made my drink. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her. Her movements were as smooth as ever, but her energy had shifted, subtle but noticeable. She placed the glass in front of me and leaned against the counter. "Rough day?" she asked, echoing her own line from before. I didn't answer right away. "Sienna," I said, quietly. Her smile froze. Her body stiffened just slightly, but she didn't move. "So, you saw it," she said, not asking. Just knowing. I nodded. "You're a CEO. A tech founder. Forbes." I tried to laugh, but it came out dry. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked down at her hands. "Because I liked how you looked at me when you didn't know." My chest tightened. "You mean when I thought you were just a bartender?" She didn't deny it. I needed that. I needed to be somewhere that didn't expect anything from me. Somewhere I could just be, not the girl on magazine covers. Not the one making $1 million decisions. Just a person. There was pain in her voice, hidden just beneath the calm surface. "This place, it grounds me." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt betrayed. But another part, an even bigger part, felt honored. That she'd chosen to show me this part of herself, even if indirectly. "You could have told me," I said, softer now. "Eventually," she said, "but I didn't want you to treat me differently." I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized how tired she looked. Not physically, but emotionally. Like someone who'd carried too much for too long without anyone to share the weight with. The rest of the night passed quietly. No flirting, no jokes, just a strange new space between us that wasn't there before. But it wasn't empty, it was full of truth now. Heavy, maybe, but real. And for the first time, I realized she had been just as afraid of being seen as I was. We were both hiding, in different ways. And somehow, we'd found each other in the middle of it. I left that night feeling like the story had changed. Not ended, just taken a turn I hadn't expected. I wasn't walking away, but I wasn't sure what came next either. All I knew was that the woman behind the bar was more than I ever imagined. And maybe, just maybe, she saw something in me too. The next few days felt strange. I still went to the bar, but everything had changed. Not on the outside. She still stood behind the counter, wiping glasses, flashing that quiet smile, playing that same soft music. But the air between us had shifted. There was something exposed now, something fragile and new. I knew who she was. And she knew that I knew. And somehow, we were both a little more cautious because of it. I tried to act normal, but every glance, every word felt loaded. I'd ask how her day was, and I'd wonder if it involved meetings with investors or signing deals in glass offices. She'd ask how I was, and I'd fumble for words, feeling small in comparison to her world. I hated that. I hated how suddenly I felt like I didn't belong beside her, like whatever was blooming between us might not survive this new knowledge. But Sienna never made me feel lesser. If anything, she tried harder to bridge the space between us. One night, she invited me to sit at the far end of the bar after closing. She brought 2 glasses, not of my usual drink, but of something new. "Try this," she said. "Something different." I sipped it, unsure of what we were doing anymore. "I'm still the same person," she said suddenly, like she had read my thoughts. "Forbes doesn't change who I am." I looked at her, and for a moment, I saw it. The same woman I met that first night, curious, grounded, kind. But now layered with everything I knew, the business, the pressure, the hiding. "I know," I said. "I just don't know where I fit in all this." She leaned back, her fingers playing with the rim of her glass. "You don't have to fit into anything. That's the point. You just have to be real with me." I nodded, even though I didn't know how to be real when everything inside me felt so tangled. "Why did you come here in the first place?" I asked. She shrugged. "I needed to feel like I wasn't being watched all The time, like I could just exist without impressing anyone. The bar became my hiding place. And me? I asked, not sure if I wanted the answer. She looked at me then, really looked. You didn't treat me like a name on a list. You talked to me like I was normal. That's why I stayed. That night, I saw her differently, not less successful, not less powerful, but more human. Vulnerable, exhausted, real. She wasn't playing games. She wasn't trying to lead me on. She was trying to live a life that made sense to her. And for some reason, I had become a part of that. Still, it wasn't easy. I started getting curious, Googling her company, watching interviews she'd done. She was smart, polished, sharp as hell. Seeing her like that, on stages, answering questions, shaking hands with big names, it felt like I was watching someone I didn't know. And yet, I did. I knew how she liked her coffee, how she hated loud bars, how she tapped her thumb 3 times on the counter when she was thinking. But the more I learned about her public life, the more intimidated I felt. And I started to pull back. It wasn't obvious at first. Just little things, taking longer to text back, leaving the bar earlier than usual, avoiding deeper conversations. She noticed. Of course she noticed. One evening, she called me out on it. You're slipping away, she said quietly. I didn't deny it. It's not you, I said. It's me, trying to figure out how I even fit into your world. Then stop trying to fit into it, she replied. Just meet me where I am. Her voice cracked a little. Because I've been standing here, waiting. That was when I realized I wasn't the only one afraid. She was scared too. Scared of losing someone who didn't look at her like a brand or a paycheck. Someone who saw her for the girl who loved slow nights, bad coffee, and long talks about nothing. That night, I stayed. We didn't talk much. We just sat together in the quiet, our shoulders touching. It was enough. I knew then that what we were building wasn't based on status or success. It was built on choice. Her choosing to show up in that bar, choosing to share pieces of herself with me. And me, choosing to stay. Choosing to see her not as the woman in Forbes, but as Sienna, the woman who made my world feel a little less heavy. Whatever came next, I knew it had to come from both of us. Because love, or whatever this was becoming, didn't work if only one person was willing to stand in the open. We had to meet each other, exactly as we were. And that night, we did. The whispers started slowly. It began with a random guy at the bar asking if Sienna was that tech girl from the internet. She laughed it off, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. A week later, someone tried to sneak a picture of her from across the room. She caught it, politely asked them to stop. But after that, things changed again. The bar, once our quiet space, started feeling like a spotlight. People were beginning to notice her, recognize her, and suddenly, we weren't just 2 people sharing moments in the corner of a dimly lit room, we were part of something bigger and messier. Something public. Sienna hated it, not because she was ashamed, but because the bar had always been her safe space. And now, it wasn't. I didn't mind the attention at first. If anything, I was proud of her. Seeing her on magazine covers, in interviews, speaking at events, I was in awe. She was everything the world admired. Brilliant, sharp, composed. But the more I watched her do all those things, the more I realized she needed something else when the lights were off. She didn't need more applause. She needed a hand to hold when she was too tired to speak. A voice that didn't ask for quotes or answers. And I tried to be that. I really did, but some days, I felt invisible again. Like I was on the outside looking in, watching her live a life I couldn't follow. Still, we tried. We learned how to navigate it, her double life, our shifting privacy, the people who stared too long. She made more space for me, inviting me into parts of her world she used to keep locked away. I started attending a few of her events. Quietly, not as her partner, just as a guest. She'd glance at me in the crowd and smile, and that was enough. Afterwards, she'd always find me first. Her hand reaching for mine before the cameras could catch it. She never said it out loud, but I could tell, being with me made her feel like herself again. We had fights, of course. Sometimes about stupid things, like her answering work calls during dinner. Sometimes about real things, like whether she was hiding me from the public. It's not about hiding you, she once said, her voice cracking. It's about keeping something sacred. Something untouched. I didn't fully understand it then. I just felt hurt, like she was proud of everything else in her life except me. But over time, I saw it more clearly. This thing we had, it wasn't a secret. It was a treasure. And she was just trying to protect it from a world that didn't know how to mind its own business. Eventually, we stopped pretending. One night, she posted a photo of us on her private Instagram. It was just our hands, fingers laced, resting on the bar counter. No faces, no caption, but it was enough. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages. Friends asking if it was me. Strangers liking the post. I was terrified, but also relieved. It felt like we had stepped out of the shadows, even just a little. And the sky didn't fall. People had opinions, sure. Some were supportive, others weren't, but none of it mattered as much as I thought it would. Because we had each other. And that was louder than anything else. What surprised me most wasn't the public reaction, it was how much closer it brought us. We started spending more time together outside the bar. Weekend mornings with coffee and blankets. Late night grocery store runs. Sitting in silence on her balcony, watching the city lights. There was a calm between us now, a quiet understanding that neither of us was going anywhere. She talked about her work more openly. I shared more of my writing. We were building something slowly. Something that wasn't perfect, but felt honest. Sienna also started getting involved in LGBTQ+ advocacy. She didn't make a big show of it. No speeches or headlines. Just real effort, donations, mentoring, supporting shelters. And she pulled me into it too. Not because she wanted me to change, but because she believed I already had something to give. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were making meaning. Out of all the mess, all the confusion, we were shaping something beautiful. Something real. It wasn't about labels or timelines or fitting into some neat little box. It was about presence. About showing up for each other when the world felt too loud. And somehow, in all the noise, we had found a home. Not a place, a person, each other. And when I looked at her, really looked, I didn't see the Forbes article. I didn't see the CEO or the bartender or the woman the world kept trying to define. I just saw her, and she saw me, and for once, that was enough. It's funny how someone can walk into your life quietly, without warning, and end up becoming the center of everything. That's what Sienna became to me. What started as a string of chance meetings at a neighborhood bar became something I could never have planned for. I used to think love had to be loud, dramatic, full of declarations and promises. But what I found with her was different. It was quiet, solid, something that settled into my life like it had always been there, just waiting for the right time to show up. Looking back, it wasn't just about discovering who she was, it was about discovering who I was too. Before her, I had lived on autopilot. Work, sleep, repeat. Going through the motions, afraid to look too closely at what I really wanted. I wasn't out, I wasn't brave, I wasn't even sure of myself. But meeting her cracked something open inside me. Made me ask the hard questions. Made me stop hiding from my own truth. She never forced me to change. She never asked for more than I could give. She just gave me space. Time, patience. And in that space, I grew. I still remember the first time I introduced her as my girlfriend. It wasn't planned. We were at a friend's small gathering, and someone asked if we came together. I looked at her, then at them, and said, yeah. She's mine. And she smiled, not just with her lips, but with her whole face. That kind of smile that tells you everything's going to be okay. That you're safe, that you're home. And I believed her. We built something real, not perfect. We had bad days, distant weeks, long silences. But we always found our way back. We learned how to talk through the hard things. How to show up even when it was inconvenient. How to love each other not in spite of the mess, but because of it. She taught me that. She taught me a lot. And I think I taught her something too, that it was okay to be seen. That being strong didn't mean being alone. Today, we're in a different place. She's still busy. I still write. The world still spins too fast most days. But we're here, together. And every time I walk past that bar on the corner of 5th and Main, I smile. Because that's where it all began. With a drink, a glance, a quiet fire behind the bar. And a story I didn't know I was about to live. If this story touched you, if it reminded you of someone you love or made you feel seen in any way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more real, human stories like this. Until next time, remember, sometimes, the most unexpected people hold the biggest parts of our hearts. And sometimes, love finds you exactly where you never thought to look.